Why history is so important and why we're in the dilemma we're in today because of the lack of people remembering history, or remembering it but then overlooking it like it really doesn't matter when in fact it does. So the next video is going to show you some history about a couple of bills that were brought forth in the Arizona Senate and were voted on and totally violated Arizona's Constitution, state statutes, and the will of the people. But politics being what they were, they finally got it passed. So I want you to take a look at this video and see what you think of it, and then I'll be right back with you.
The governor decided that he would reinstate those employees. He controls the Department of Administration, so apparently if he said fire them or rehire them or leave them on payroll, that would be the case. We tried initially to find a legislative solution that basically said, State Board of Ed, you can have these 3 employees, period, end of story. And investigations comes back. At that time, they hadn't moved out. That's what precipitated the lawsuit. So this went on prior to them moving out. So we tried to calm the waters, if you will, and just say, you know what, you can have those 3 employees that set up board meetings, bring the investigations back, because the investigators have to work hand in hand with certification, and they need to be in that office. Unfortunately, as many know with legislation, it didn't play out that way.
Yeah.
So I had given my word that I would support a legislative solution. So I did, but I will tell you quite honestly, when it did not pass, I was very thankful, because by the end of the legislative session, it had become much more than the original intent.
What about the one that did pass on the Amendment 1469 on the reconciliation bill that took all 11 employees and the $1.7 million budget and turned the board into an agency?
I did not support that. That was not part of ours. The bill that, the legislation we supported was solely for 3 employees.
I remember that one.
To just make that happen. I'm not sure how that got into the budget bill, and quite frankly, the very interesting thing about that, and this might be more in the weeds than the rest of you want, is that it's one thing to do it, and it wasn't done properly, because you can't create a new agency through the budget, but that's what they did.
And the president signed.
But even prior to that, the state board's budget was always part of ADE's, and the Department of Administration took that money away from us mid-fiscal year, and that can't be done legally either.
That's the question they've been asking me. Did you agree with losing 11 employees?
No, absolutely not.
Did you agree with the budget? Did you agree with the board being made an agency?
No, absolutely not.
That's because now I can tell them she said.
But there is a little piece of it that we did try to facilitate.
Well, that was 2184.
Right.
That was the first bill. That was a 2 and,
right.
You know, that was for that.
2 and an administrative assistant, that's it, in the story. That was all it was ever intended to be.
Yeah, I was there on that day.
And we wrote that bill very well when it got chewed up by other parties.
Well, now that you've looked at the video, I hope you understood the issue of HB 2184, SB 1469, and there was another bill as well that Senator Ward had written herself that got rejected on these same issues. However, the video that's going to play next is going to a whole other place. The first video, as you saw in the posting, was shot at the Sun City West Republican Club meeting. Well, a month later at the next meeting, this video was taken. One of the same people is there, and one of the other people was mentioned in the last video is there. And I want you to take a look at this and ask yourselves, the question I want to put to you is, how could this happen after what you just watched in the previous video? So take a look at this and I'll be back with you in a moment. Thank you again.
Now, I'm going to interrupt my stump speech right here, and I'm going to also say that while I was in the Arizona State Senate, I was the chair of the Education Committee last year, and I worked hard with Diane, and I want Diane to come up with me because we have an announcement to make today. There's a press release going out today from Superintendent Douglas herself, as an individual, as a Republican. Superintendent Diane Douglas endorses Kelli Ward to the United States Senate. Yes. I'm just going to read you one one of the sentences that, because I know we have limited time and I want to get to questions, but Diane says, I worked closely with Kelli Ward while she was a state senator, and I have no doubt she will perform just as exemplary in Washington, D.C. on Arizonans' behalf. When it comes to core conservative values, fresh blood, and the will to change up the way things are done at the Capitol, I have no reservations for strongly endorsing Kelli Ward. So I appreciate Diane's support. I look forward to continuing to work with her and to maintaining the rights of our elected officials to continue to represent the people. So Diane, I thank you.
Well, now you've watched that video of the former Arizona Superintendent of Public Instruction endorsing Senator Ward for the U.S. Senate in her race, after previously stating that she opposed the bill that Senator Ward had amended and voted for in the Senate. We got killed in the House, and then Mr. Biggs brought up the bill another way through reconciliation, totally illegal. She voted for that bill. Both of these bills violated Arizona state laws, took control away from the parents for their children in schools, handed control over to the Board of Education, totally appointed by governors, both Republican and Democrat. You don't know what any of them are going to do. We have no jurisdiction over them. And yet, after saying that she was totally against these bills and was glad the one didn't pass, unfortunately the second one was done in the dark of night, and it did pass and is still doing harm to the state today. But a month later, in front of the same club, then endorsed Senator Ward for the U.S. Senate seat in Arizona, knowing that the things she did here in Arizona, she'd be capable of doing in Washington, D.C. Because if you go along with the party in Arizona, you're going to go along with the party in Washington. And that's the problem we face. Constantly, history repeats itself politically in this nation. We expect a different result by repeating the same mistakes. We don't get a different result, we get the same outcome, and then wonder why this happens to us. Usually it happens because no one wants to remember the history. And when they do remember it, they don't like it, and they say, well, people make mistakes. They make excuses for them. Political mistakes or shortcomings are made, and we pay the price. I personally don't believe people that make these kind of mistakes, just like the people in the Arizona House who in that same year in 2016 voted for the national popular vote, 11 of which are now state senators and could do more damage to us. These kind of political missteps or unconstitutional moves need to be stopped. This is my way of trying to remind people how they happen. And I know some people won't like this, but I'm compelled to do it, just like I'm compelled to do a lot of things. So I want to thank you for listening in and then ask you a really simple question. Are you going to believe your lying eyes and what you see and heard these people say? Or are you going to believe whatever they tell you in the future? The answer you give is up to you and will determine the history and the future that our children are going to live with. Thank you and God bless you very much. Once again, this is Clair Van Steenwyk from Crossroads thanking you for taking the time to view this. And please pass it on to your friends. God bless you and have a great day.